boasted that the government's fiscal consolidation process, defined, and I quote, as revenue enhancement and expenditure restraint, was bringing the country's debt back on a downward trajectory. Or that could be back on a downward trajectory when each year you continue to borrow. Every year you continue to borrow. In 7 years, let me tell you, Madam Speaker, the minister raised our net public debt by 50% over what he found in 2015. 50%! But he's saying we are on a downward trajectory. The minister obviously has a different concept or understanding of what is downward and what is upward. Downward trajectory. Frankly, the minister could come here and talk all he wants about the debt to GDP ratio dropping. The fact is that the public sector debt increased every single year since they assumed office by billions of dollars. Every single year. And this is in spite of raids on the HSF, in spite of withdrawal from the NIF, which totaled 21 billion, to fund expenditure, which otherwise you would have had to finance through borrowings. So I mentioned, sometimes you have to wonder, people tell me what's sprung, and so you really have to wonder what's going on. So you're borrowing to finance. You're drawing down on the HSF. You're drawing down from the NIF. You're selling assets. And yet, the money is never enough. You're still with a deficit. The debt continues to rise. Although the country has already paid over $62 billion in debt servicing over the last 7 years. That's taxpayers' money, $62 billion in debt servicing over the last 7 years, because they are borrowing more than they are paying back yearly. As the debt burden rises, they are effectively borrowing to pay debt. That is what it means. They are borrowing to pay debt, which you'll have to borrow again to pay for, and it will continue in a vicious cycle. I'm reminded of a book, The Children of Sisyphus, that they will be pushing a boulder up a hill, and as soon as it reaches a little way, it just rolls back down again. That is what is happening under this government. The 2023 estimates of expenditure place charges on account of public debt, that is debt servicing, at $9.62 billion for 2022. Debt servicing, not paying the debt, no, just a service, 22.2, 9.6 billion. Do you know what is the estimate for the 2023 for debt servicing? $15.075 billion. So where's the downward trajectory? Where is all this taxpayers' dollars going? Because you just borrow, and spend. You have no clear plan, no policies for growth, for sustainable development, for the creation of jobs. All you do is borrow, tax, and spend with not a care in the world. And so you have pushed our country into debt trap. Instead of frontally admitting the truth, the minister keeps spending money that is not his, put in jail. I look at the HSF. Minister boasted he put a deposit. Well, that's the first time they ever put a deposit. Huh? But let me tell you what the details are. During the time when they were recklessly indebting our country, they were also drawing down on our ability to repay those debts using our savings. I am advised that net asset value of the HSF as of September 14th, 2022 was US $4.788 million, US $4.788 million. In September 2015, the value of our savings in the HSF was $5.65 billion, 55. So under us, 6.55 billion, US million. Under this government, 4.788.2 million. Over the last 7 years, the fund has generated a solid stream of income. If left alone, it would have been valued at more than US $8 billion. $8 billion. Lending strength to our national savings and international foreign exchange buffers. Instead, the government changed the legislation. Remember, they came to this parliament and changed the legislation. They mismanaged the economy. They facilitated the extraction of US $2.5 billion from the savings in the HSF, almost half the optimal value of the HSF in just 7 years. Took out almost half out of the HSF. That works out to 17 billion TT dollars withdrawn in 7 years. That was money working for citizens by generating millions in interest and dividends annually to add to the total annual value, total value of our savings. So let me put this in perspective too. Last Monday, the minister gleefully boasted, after 7 years of withdrawing, they finally deposited US $163 million into the HSF. Do you know what that works out to be, Madam Speaker? That works out to the government having deposited in the HSF a paltry 6.5% of what they had withdrawn. They can now give contracts, because they took away this from the law, contracts to their lawyers and bankers, because the law no longer applies to legal services, financial services, auditing services, accounting services, and medical services. Not to be scrutinized. These contracts are not to be scrutinized under the procurement legislation. So they're spending your money, but they don't want to do it to whom it is going. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. We know about some financial services in the tune of millions to billions of dollars, that these contracts are going to a relative, a family member of a cabinet minister. We know of it. Minister has to recuse himself umpteen times from the cabinet. These should be open to public scrutiny under the law. This is, in our democracy, it is not government by secrecy. It is not and should not be. And now in this budget, madam, they talk about public-private partnerships. Several of them, billion-dollar deals, but they had taken that out of the procurement law. So they can enter into public-private partnerships with family, friends, and finances without the scrutiny of the procurement legislation. It's because they got it and took it out. Budget 2023 speaks to many such projects for public-private partnerships. I want to ask again, to tell you, ask yourself why. So no procurement legislation, millions of dollars going into corruption. And what's happening? You cannot buy laptops for our children. You cannot put medicine for the CDAP in the hospitals. You cannot, in the hospitals or in the CDAP. You cannot provide textbooks for the children. You cannot settle wage negotiations. You cannot help the poor. But you are getting billion-dollar contracts without scrutiny. This is intolerable. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed of yourselves. You know, I want to ask the member for Arima. We had the fortunate circumstance of attending the law school together. Very decent lady. I want to ask her, member, will you be voting for these policies and programs? These wicked policies and programs that bring hardship on the poor? I'll ask Attorney Scotland, will you be voting for these programs and policies that are making hardship on people? We'll wait to see. Will you do that? Or do you have a conscience or a heart that you will stand for the poor people and the most vulnerable in the country? So, procurement on the institutional building. And I said, this government has no interest in building independent institutions with integrity. Another repeating promise under building institutions is the National Statistical Institute. This non-performing government keeps making this promise year after year, and this year was no different. In fact, the minister did speak about this one on Monday in his statement. Like a broken record, minister comes year after year, he promises the government will implement the National Statistical Institute. Since 2016, and again repeated in 2023 budget. Year after year, the government continues to make critical decisions without any proper data. In last year's budget, we were told that it would bring the law to Parliament, but it did not. What are the facts here? Because
there seemed to be a body of persons who want to blame the opposition for the failure of this piece of legislation to be passed in the Parliament. Let me give you the facts, madam. That NSI, National Statistical Institute, bill was laid June 2018 in the third session of the 11th Parliament. There was no debate on the bill for the entire session. Thereafter, in the fourth session, after many months, the bill was debated on the 1st February 2019 and then referred to a joint select committee. The committee did not complete its work in the fourth session, so it was carried over to the fifth session. On the 2nd October 2019, the joint select committee was given until the 31st December to report to the Parliament. The JSC never completed its work and never reported to the Parliament. Coming down now to 2020. On the 3rd July 2020, the Parliament was dissolved and that bill lapsed. There was never a final report of JSC. There was no debate on the bill from the JSC and no vote was ever taken. We are now in the second session of the 12th Parliament and no bill is in sight. None has been laid. None has been laid. So government has deliberately stifled the bill and some want to blame the opposition. The Minister of Finance shamelessly has the nerve to come to Parliament again and promise this NSI. While we understand that there needs to be a modernization of the CSO, the creation of any alternative body must be an independent body, free from the control and influence of politicians. And this is so vital because you don't want a politician or politicians telling what statistics to print. Because then they will come every year and say, turn around, we can see clearly, there's growth, there's recovery, everything is booming, things are great. You have to have an independent statistical body in a country to get data that you can rely upon, and then you can be data driven in making your policies and programs. So we understand that we need to have a modernized statistical office. This year, the minister jabs, he hopes the opposition supports the law. Let me tell you, sir, and tell the government, we will support the NSI, but we had concerns with the bill, the original one, and if these concerns are not addressed, you will not get our support. Our concerns included that the minister had too much involvement in NSI in that bill, where it was proposed that the minister appoint all 6 members on the board of the NSI. How can you expect any reasonable, right-thinking person to support that, where the minister will appoint all the members of the statistical board? Then the minister calls up and says, listen, we'll get a growth rate of 20% today. Listen, predict we'll get gas production up by 100%. Oil production. No, you must have an independent statistical institute. So we could not support that. We could not support it. Second, the process of appointing the director, the power and jurisdiction of the director, and the defined relationships with the board and other entities required greater clarity. Thirdly, financing for independence and autonomy and direct fiscal allocation for the NSIT. You can't go begging cap in hand, as so many other ministries and people do. I take some ministers even say they're not getting no money from the Minister of Finance. Not getting no money. They should have an independent vote, fiscal allocation, to keep their independence. There were many other issues, but as I say, the opposition is willing to support, provided that the concerns are met. And it's not only the opposition who has raised concerns about this minister's political influence over the Statistical Institute. Retired statistician Lance Busby lamented in a Loop TT article, after reviewing the bill, that there needs to be more autonomy for the Institute. This government is not serious about improving data collection in the country. All talk and no action, and no institutional building in this regard. Another area for institutional building is the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority. The minister spends a lot of time talking about the TTRA. Seems he finds joy, as I say, in taxing the population. By Act 17 of 2021, this is what happened. The government unscrupulously removed the special majority.
I rise on standing order 49, please.
Thank you for the break.
This is under challenge? All right, so, remember, I'll allow you a little leeway, but if this is under challenge, please don't go into any depth with respect to this matter.
I'm guided, Madam Speaker. So the minister removed the special majority, and that has become a modus operandi of the government. We will bring a bill that requires a special majority, they remove the special majority clause, and then pass it. That is why I will not use the word again, but that is why I find something is wrong with operating in that manner. But if that's how the government operates, that's how it operates. So the government removed the special majority requirement, and with a razor-thin majority in the parliament, they passed the TTRA Act. The government's paid no heed or regard for the Constitution. They have removed the independence of the Board of the Inland Revenue and substituted it with a political...
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
People often think about wellness in terms of physical health, nutrition, exercise, weight management, etc. But it is much more. Wellness is a holistic integration of physical, social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, financial, occupational, and environmental state. Join our host, Terry-Ann George, a health coach, author, mediator, and CEO of the Institute of Health and Fitness, as she discusses 8 elements with several professionals within the various dimensions of wellness. So let's kick burnout to the curb for good and gain control.
Good day, Trinidad and Tobago, and to all my loyal listeners. It's a pleasure being here once again. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, the liver. Right? And we will be discussing fatty liver. Now, a lot of persons are suffering with fatty liver across the country, both male and female. Fatty liver is one of the main causes of diabetes because it allows the insulin not to be able to dissolve, creating an insulin resistant. And so a number of people are suffering with diabetes due to fatty liver. Once you fix that and clean the system and detox the liver, the body will be able to start back to function as normal. Also, I found out that fatty liver is one of the main causes of polycystic ovaries and fibroids. Okay, and that also is fatty liver also leads to men having incompetence, those who, because of the fact that they end up being diabetic due to the fact of the fatty liver. So today we're going to have the topic of the identifying 8 signs and symptoms of a fatty liver, right? Now, we at the Institute of Health and Fitness, we scan you from your head to your toe. We have a liver scan that will scan the complete liver and tells us exactly what's happening with your liver. It also going to tell us what's happening with your pancreas and tells us what's taking place within the body. And we have a special right now for the month of October, the whole month of October, that liver scan will be costing $600 together with your consultation and a dietary change, right? We also have with it comes with a package, the liver detox, and the liver detox will be cleaning the liver and also fixing and healing and building it back, and that package is $400 for the month of
Warning signs of fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease is closely linked with obesity, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Though it's difficult to detect, there are some symptoms that can serve as pointers to spot this disease. Fatty liver disease, a silent disease. This is because a person might not experience any symptoms even as the disease progresses. However, fatty liver disease can enlarge the liver. When this occurs, may cause pain or discomfort in the upper right side of the abdomen, which is the area between the hips, abdominal pain. The discomfort, or stabbing, sensation, in the center or upper part of the abdomen. This pain doesn't result from any activity nor any certain kind of action. It can appear after eating because the stomach expands and presses against the enlarged liver. 2. Fatigue. Fatigue is a common early symptom noted in about half of the cases of fatty liver disease. In a quarter of those cases, it is bad enough to affect the individual's quality of life significantly. Mental fatigue, which makes performing mental and physical tasks challenging, is common and may be related to the depression and anxiety that also develop with a fatty liver. Research suggests impairment to the liver's ability to communicate with the brain could also contribute to this symptom. One affected area in the brain is the basal ganglia, which deal with voluntary motor control and emotion. 3. Dark urine. We can detect problems or illnesses through urine. Let's not forget that this liquid transports toxins and wastes. In cases of fatty liver disease, the fluid will be a darker color than normal, which doesn't lighten throughout the day. Though urine is normally darker in the mornings, it usually proceeds to clear up as the day proceeds. Feces can also present changes. They might appear whiter or clayish with a stronger odor than normal. 4. Indigestion. If anything that you eat, regardless of if it's healthy in a small quantity, upsets your stomach or leads to nausea or gases, there might be a complication in your liver. People who have fatty liver often go to the doctor believing they suffer from indigestion but realize that the cause is actually hepatic steatosis. 5. Jaundice. Bilirubin is a byproduct of the body breaking down old red blood cells. It's partly made up of bile and passes through the small intestine as direct bilirubin. When the liver malfunctions, it isn't properly excreted and builds up in the blood, leading to yellowed skin and eyes and dark urine. This is a noticeable symptom of fatty liver disease, but other symptoms of liver issues could prompt a doctor to order a bilirubin test even before it manifests. 6. Hyperinsulinemia. Blood sugar levels rise after eating, prompting the pancreas to release insulin into the blood. Cells choose to use the sugars as fuel or store as fat. Insulin resistance means the cells do not respond to insulin, which triggers the release of more insulin and causes hyperinsulinemia. This condition is a sign of liver dysfunction, and it contributes to the fatigue and brain fog sometimes associated with fatty liver disease. 7. Ascites. The peritoneal cavity contains a fluid that acts as a lubricant and sits between the lining of the abdominal wall and the internal organs. Ascites is the accumulation of excess fluid in this cavity, which causes belly swelling. Ascites can be caused by many health conditions, but the most common is high blood pressure in the veins that bring blood to the liver, which is usually due to fatty liver or other liver diseases. 8. Red palms. Estradiol is a form of estrogen produced by the sex organs and adrenal glands. It is metabolized in the liver, and when the liver malfunctions, estradiol levels become abnormal. This elevation can progress into palmar erythema, a condition that causes the palms to redden.
So we have come to the end of this program. You can now contact us at 336-4935 or 492-7397. We are situated in Marabella and at Tonopuna.
Men, women, tired of the invasive, painful old methods of testing prostate and breasts?
The Institute of Health and Fitness Clinic and Wellness Center offers comprehensive and non-invasive diagnostic testing, which indicates the nature and extent of diseases and tests your nutritional levels. Our quick testing can identify early signs of problems by evaluating many of the bodily functions, such as male and female sexual function, gastrointestinal function, liver function, kidney function, thyroid function, heart and brain function, and also cancer testing. Results are comparable with other medical lab tests without the use of needles or embarrassing specimen cups, and is pain-free. We also offer all natural treatments. Visit us now at number 79 St. Vincent Street, Tunapuna, or call 492-7397 or 289-6366.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the street. 919 FM.
Finally, a line of baking products that caters for the gluten-free, cholesterol-free, egg-free, and dairy-free person, enriched with sesame, flax meal, and chai seeds. Also try our line of seasonings and spices that are ideal for diabetic, kidney, heart, colon, and hypertensive persons. Perfect for the whole family. Healthy O, the healthier way to go. Find it in a supermarket near you.
All right, Trinidad and Tobago, we're getting ready to go for the news in a short bit, so don't touch your dial. All right, right after the news, I'm going to come back, and well, you know, I don't have much time, so if by the time I come back from the news, Miss Bissessa still talking, well, I'll just give you a little taste of that, and then I want to deal with the issue with chamfer. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there about chamfer. Whoa. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there about chamfer, Kojo. I'm going to deal with that. So, don't touch your dial. Stay right here. We're coming back after the budget. Well, we're coming back to deal with some issues. All right? So, stay with me right here on the street, 919 FM. All right? So, don't touch your dial. We're coming right back. Okay, so the opposition leader is giving her response to the budget, right? The opposition leader.
We are the street. The street. The street. 919 FM. The only radio station bringing perfect balance between entertainment and talk. Updating you with current affairs and social issues.
So what, we should just sit down and take the foolishness that's being meted out because of all you feel that all you're real bad?
Right? Unlike his situation that I don't even want to go back and bring up and highlight.
You don't have a good record where that is concerned?
Having you in the loop with trends and entertainment. Providing music that lives on. And spiritual food for the body, mind, and soul. The Street. 919 FM.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the Street. 919 FM.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the street. 919 FM.
It's the launch of Legacy's 2023 presentation, a TikTok affair. On Saturday, October 1st at Ibiza Lounge. Come TikTok yourself with Youngstar, Mystical, Caution Sound, DJ Tari and Parky, Music Jazz, Nigel Snipes, and much more. Win an all-inclusive Legacy Carnival package and other door prizes. Tickets at Legacy Mass Camp, Brooklyn Bar, and Legacy Committee members. Call 622-7466 or 362-5959 for info. TikTok, it's trending. TikTok. At Legacy Band Launch Saturday, October 1st, Ibiza Lounge. Courtesy Blue Waters, Coca-Cola, Wiggins Light Effects, Forest Park Punch and Rock. And powered by Rockstone Tonic Wine.
Ever wanted to do your banking without going to the bank? Well, First Citizens makes it easy. Getting salary alerts with mobile alerts is as easy as reading a text. Paying bills with telebanking is as easy as making a phone call. Transferring funds with the mobile app is as easy as posting a selfie. And paying credit cards via online banking is as easy as streaming a movie.
First Citizens Easy Banking makes your everyday banking so much easier. Visit firstcitizensgroup.com for more information. First Citizens, we put you first.
Blessings in the wonderful name of Jesus. My name is Nikki Garcia, and you are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 in the morning on The Street 919 FM radio. Here, Pastor Helen Garcia and my husband, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. Tune in and prepare to be blessed.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
Tune into The Street 91.9 FM
every Sunday from 10:05 a.m. to 11 a.m.
for the Repairing of the Breach radio program with me, Bishop Showinal Thomas.
The scripture says, "And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places.
Thou shalt raise up the foundation of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairers of the breach, the restorers of the paths to dwell in."
Don't miss it. Repairing the Breach radio program with Bishop Sherwin R. Thomas on The Street 919 FM every Sunday from 10:05 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tune in to The Street 919 FM every Friday from 9:15 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. with Kingdom Health Services, situated at number 125 Eastern Main Road in Tunapuna. For the program, Health and Healing, merging the old with the new with Mr. Brent Diet. For more information, call 318-7471 or 484-0141 or 360-4100. It's all about Kingdom Health Services on The Street 919 FM.
Join Pastor Kelvin Heinerine and friends for The Way, The Truth, The Life Radio Ministry, a Church of God ministry, live on The Street 919 FM from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
This and every Sunday
on The Street 919 FM. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father except through me." John chapter 14, verse 6. For further information, contact 686-3845, 349-5178, or 342-7303.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Broadcasting from Trinidad to the world. The Street 919FM.com.
News from the Street 919FM.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 12 o'clock news on The Street 919 FM and online Facebook and YouTube on Iwer TV. In the headlines, the opposition leader responds in Parliament to the recently read budget. 3 economists say the people of Trinidad and Tobago have become too spoilt. Shamfa Kujo asks, why is it so hard for people to make sacrifices? And internationally, more U.S. states and cities are forcing companies to disclose wage data to improve equity and transparency. And now the news in detail. Opposition leader Mrs. Kamna Prasad Bisesa arrived at Parliament earlier today to respond to the Finance Minister's recently read 2023 national budget. Kamla Persad-Bissessar said she does not plan to suffer the people with a long presentation, but she's urging the government to wheel and come again with the budget that was presented Monday. The opposition leader asked the Prime Minister why his government was brutalizing the poor. She told the PNM government to come down from day and face the reality that people are suffering and the budget will only increase their suffering. Persad-Bissessar said everyone has become poorer under the PNM administration and noted that real GDP has fallen by 22%, which shows a reduction in the standard of living. The opposition leader said this year's budget offers no hope that the government has a plan outside of remaining dependent on the declining energy sector, hoping and praying that we'll get high oil prices. 3 senior economists have said that decades of subsidies, transfers and other forms of government assistance to the tune of tens of billions of dollars have made citizens of Trinidad and Tobago spoiled. Economists David Siwatan, Dr. Darren Conrad and Dr. Marlene Atz, who spoke during a post-budget virtual forum, all agreed that after years of support from successive governments, citizens are now facing the actual real cost of living. The economists noted that in some countries with less resources available, there is a different mindset altogether. They added that these countries are able to make tough decisions and implement some of their measures, but it doesn't fly here in TNT because we have become, for want of a better word, spoilt over the years. Shamfa Cudjoe has lashed out at critics of the 2022-2023 national budget, saying there were some people who never worked a day in their lives and were still receiving a pension as the safety net remained strong. The sport minister was speaking at the opening of the $18 million Tacarigua Community Center, where she made some comments that appeared to have upset some citizens. Cudjoe did not refer directly to the cut in gas subsidies, but said there had been lots of negative rhetoric about we have to walk everywhere now. The minister asked the audience to look at Barbados and Jamaica, claiming that while Trinidad and Tobago still had some cheese, the other 2 countries mentioned had to settle for chalk and cheese, she thundered. Cudjoe said there are difficult decisions that the government have to make and asked why is it so hard for people to make sacrifices. A peaceful march has been granted to the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Advocacy Network by Acting Commissioner of Police MacDonald Jacob. The march, which started earlier today on the Eastern Main Road, is expected to end at 12:30 p.m. at the Brian Lara Promenade. Internationally, California has become the latest U.S. state to force employers to publish detailed information on salaries in an effort to clamp down on gender and other wage gaps and boost fairness for workers. The law, which Governor Gavin Newsom signed on September 27th, requires any employer with at least 15 employees to publish a pay scale alongside any job ad. It also requires all companies employing more than 100 people to submit an annual pay data report to California's Civil Rights Department, providing a snapshot of employees by race, ethnicity, and sex, as well as the median and mean hourly pay rate for each group. In passing the law, California joins a clutch of other states and cities that have introduced or are tipped to pass legislation designed to shed light on pay practices. In 2021, the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act went into effect in Colorado, while New York City's pay transparency law will likely pass in November this year. Elsewhere, Maryland already requires pay to be disclosed for job postings upon request, and laws in Connecticut, Nevada, and Rhode Island ensure that compensation levels are disclosed during the hiring process. And that was the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online, Facebook, and YouTube on Iwer TV. Recapping the headlines, the opposition leader responds in Parliament to the recently read budget. 3 economists say the people of Trinidad and Tobago have become too spoilt. Shamfa Kuja asks, why is it so hard for people to make sacrifices? And internationally, more U.S. states and cities are forcing companies to disclose wage data to improve equity and transparency. Do enjoy your afternoon and continue to be safe. I am Vanessa Thomas.
News from the street. News from the street. 919fm.com.
It will increase from $818 per month to $1,058 per month, an increase of $240 every month this year. Now we must remember that for drivers using supergas in 2015, their monthly bill would have been $432. Now they're being asked to pay 120% more, or $683 every month. This will bring really severe suffering on an already suffering population. The government must reverse this measure with immediate effect. We call on the government to reverse this fuel price hike with immediate effect. And as we talk about that fuel price and the subsidy, I will now turn, Madam, to some of the sectoral areas. As I say, my colleagues will develop more on those areas. I turn to the energy sector. The Minister was very clear that the energy sector is a cornerstone of the community, of the country, and I believe it. It is the economy's engine, and partly because, yes, it is. We used to have a competitive advantage in that era, but and also because this government has failed to provide any other revenue streams, so we remain dependent on the energy sector to generate revenue streams, to generate foreign exchange. The global commerce and travel rebound in 2021. The Russia-Ukraine war has led the world into a period of high oil, natural gas, and ammonia prices. These high prices are directly responsible for the increase in revenue government experienced in fiscal 2022. We should note, however, that oil and gas prices in recent weeks have been falling on fears of a global recession. Further speculation surrounding a potential OPEC output cut next week resulted in markets settling yesterday at prices generally below the US $90 per barrel the minister projected. This alone merits a reduction in the target price in the budget. If the government keeps the budgeted oil price at that level, then one can only conclude they're doing so to enable them to raid the HSF once more in fiscal 22. Reuters noted yesterday, and I quote, Brent crude futures settled down 83 cents at $88.49 per barrel after rising as high as $90.12 during the session. U.S. crude futures for November settled 92 cents lower at $81.23 a barrel. So it would be wise, Madam, to temper expectations of windfall extending into 2023. As was made clear by the many graphs presented at the September Spotlight event, even Even with these high energy prices in 2022, government revenue is not back to 2014 or 2015 levels. The minister based the budget on an oil price of $92.50 per barrel and $6 per MMBTU for gas. While these are the highest price assumptions ever used in preparing a budget, the expected revenue for fiscal 23 still does not equate to what was collected by my government in fiscal 14 and 15, when total government revenue was $58.4 billion and $57.2 billion, respectively. It is reasonable to assume that the minister selected these high price assumptions to avoid having to make deposit into the HSF. Now, I mentioned before there's decline in every metric, and this is especially so in the energy sector. Why is our revenue not back to its highest levels in spite of the highest price assumptions? The answer is because of our falling level of production in oil and gas. There has been a consistent decline in the production of oil and natural gas in Trinidad and Tobago under this government. The fact that natural gas production has fallen to lows last seen 19 years ago did not get the attention of the minister at all. Nothing was talked about that. In the last 7 years, natural gas production has fallen by 32%. On every measure, in every metric, the evidence is irrefutable that the energy sector has declined, and the decline has not been marginal. It has been substantial decline in the energy sector. The decline in the sector, is directly related to the policies of those on the opposite bench, to the PNM. The decline is directly the result of the work of the PNM. That has had direct consequences for all people of Trinidad and Tobago, especially we talk about the man or the woman on the maxi taxi. Any man or woman on that maxi taxi, the ordinary man, has really severe consequences because of the failure and decline of the energy sector, which Minister said was a cornerstone. I have said it's the engine of the community, of the country. So if you're declining, then it's going to impact every single thing in the country. From 2015 to 2021, CSO data indicates that the economy contracted by 19.4%, and half of that GDP contraction came from a declining energy sector. The energy sector declined by 28.8% in terms of real GDP from 2015 to 2021. Now get this right, the energy sector has declined by 28.8% from 2015. Regarding employment in that energy sector, we talk about job loss and a lost decade. Regarding employment in the energy sector, CSO data in quarter 3 2015, we are told that there were 22,500 persons with jobs in the energy sector under my watch. By quarter 1 2022, that figure collapsed to 10,600. In 7 years, a 53% decline in persons with jobs in the energy sector. What a shame, thanks to that PNM government on the other side. So where have these people gone? I am told that many have migrated to Canada, others seeking jobs. Some have found jobs in Ghana and Suriname. And it's a worrying sign of the decay of the energy sector. This goes beyond the tragedy of the closure of Petrotrin. These are not numbers from the opposition. The numbers I'm giving you are numbers from the CSO in the quarterly labor force survey bulletin. Our energy sector professionals are fleeing the reign of the incompetence of this PNM government and that Minister of Energy. The period 2015 to 2025 will become known as the lost decade of Trinidad and Tobago economy under the energy sector, under the PNM government. In decline, in the contraction, we have seen plant closures, many plant closures under this government. I mentioned the closure of Petrotrin, and by the way, that now Floria closure of our once proud refinery. What has happened with that refinery? We're supposed to sell that refinery to someone. What has happened? We don't know anything further about it. The last time we heard there was a buyer, and the buyer disappeared. Somebody up in the United States somewhere. So, after 4 years of closure of the refinery, is it now a case of buying scrap iron or old battery buying? The pace of the refinery closure, the case of the refinery closure must be prosecuted, and we must get to the bottom of that decision and determine who is the owner of that tragic decision. Who put the light out at Petrotrin? We must come to the bottom of that. Today, in a world of great supply chain uncertainty, we have to import gasoline, diesel, and jet fuels. And so that's the closure from Petrotrin. We also had the closure of the Mittal Steel Complex in 2016. That was the first industrial sin of this government. Then there was the closure of Proman M1 plant in 2017. Then there was the closure of Yara ammonia plant in 2019. The closure of the Titan methanol plant in 2020. And now infamous closure of Train 1 in 2020. Plant closures, shame, the incompetence of the PNM government. The closure of these plants has led to the idling of billions of dollars in capital in the energy sector. Idling. These plants are just sitting there. As I mentioned before, related job losses. The mother of all ironies is a Minister of Energy appearing on CNN's Quest Means Business. Quest means business. And boasted that we will ramp up natural gas production to meet a shortfall created by the Russian-Ukraine war. Wow. We're rich, as they say, truly rich. And while the minister was saying that, ammonia, methanol, energy plants right here in TNT could not get the volumes of natural gas they needed. Train 1 had to be shut down because they couldn't get the gas, and the minister is boasting we're going to supply gas on the world market because of false dreams. The minister is obviously dreaming or is not aware of the reality in the energy sector. And so despite flying to Houston, London, Zurich, The Hague, Doha, and parts unknown over the last 7 years, and meeting with international energy companies, the reality is our natural gas production has not improved but has fallen. The situation would have been much worse had it not been for the natural gas projects I mentioned before that were initiated under the government. It would have been much worse. The current level of supply cannot meet the total demand of all customers in the country. And it is for that reason we have had plant closures, understand it? It's not because anybody is wicked or bad mind or anything. It is because your policies and your projects and your programs have all failed to keep the energy sector going. You have failed. Just last week, Ferticon, an international ammonia publication by IHS Markit, reported, and I quote, the supply of natural gas to industrial consumers in Trinidad is curtailed currently reportedly by around 25%. Curtailed, you know what I mean? Cut down. The impact on ammonia output isn't crystal clear, though operations and nutrient plants at Point Lisas are said to have been up and down. That's the way you're getting this gas. Where are you getting these energy products to sell on the world market? Were you truthful when you spoke to that CNN people on that program? Because you have not the capacity, nor the ability, nor the competence to do so. So in spite of the glowing rhetoric, in spite of the trips abroad, Point Lisas and Atlantic continue to limp along. In the 21-22 budget speech, Minister boasted that oil production was on the rebound. He said natural gas production was improving. He said and I quote, natural gas production would rise to 3.37 billion standard cubic feet in 2022. Nothing is further from the truth, nothing. He then said it would stabilize at 3.60 billion standard cubic feet. All of this is just pie in the sky wishful thinking. The minister comes in 2022, he gives a conservative forecast for 23 of 3 billion cubic feet per day. And given his well-established track record of wrongly forecasting natural gas production, one could assume those numbers he's given are also on the track. But the unfortunate reality is totally different from the fanciful imaginations of the government. The unfortunate reality is that this government has facilitated the decline of natural gas production. And you know why? Because they reversed the suite of incentives that had been put in place by my government. That's what happened. They reversed it and had no idea what to do except to tinker, as I say, here and there. The PNM is now in its 8th year of government and must take the blame for the condition of the energy sector, especially the unacceptable levels of natural gas production. They must take the blame. 7 years going 8 down, stop blaming Kamala, stop blaming Ukraine and Russia. Blame yourselves for your failure to manage the sector. Last year the minister said oil and condensate production would increase to 86,000 barrels per day in 2022. Another untruth. I know I can't say lie, but this is another untruth. Did not increase. For the first 8 months of 22, oil and condensate production averaged 59,000 barrels per day. What did the minister say? 86,000 barrels. Average, 59,000. What a big difference. Yet again, the minister is wrong. Last year, the minister bet heavily on the Woodside BHP Ruby project, but that project disappointed greatly, so he didn't get the gas from there. Broken promises on fiscal reform. So what is the problem? Why do we continue to have falling oil production and falling gas production in Trinidad and Tobago? I wonder if those on the other side remember and therefore should hang their heads in shame that we were so blessed in this country to have one of the oldest oil industries in the world, over 100 years old, and you put the light out on that industry. You have decimated the energy sector. You have placed the entire nation at risk because you don't seem to have an idea or a clue of what to do. What is the source of this decline? Talk to people in the industry. Do you talk to anyone? Talk to people in the industry. That's what I do. I am not an energy expert, but I talk to people in the industry. And they will tell you it is all due to what they call above ground factors. All due to what they call above ground factors. The fiscal regime that underpins the energy sector is the main deterrent to the levels of investment needed to increase production of oil and natural gas. It is a fiscal reform that you promised repeatedly and failed to honor. Before 2010, the oil and gas industry told the then Manning administration that there was a need for reform of the fiscal regime. From 2011 to 2015, we met with a lot of the oil companies when we formed the government, and they asked for the fiscal reform. And because of that, we introduced a range of incentives, including harmonizing the SPT, Supplemental Petroleum Tax, increasing cost recovery levels for deep water, and introducing accelerated capital incentives for development drilling and exploration drilling. The accelerated allowances for exploration drilling caused BP to drill 2 exploration wells in 2017. So it was not because of you. It was because of the accelerated allowance for exploration that were given by the government that I led. These wells were successful. One of them, the Savannah well, gave us the Matapal project. The other gave the Macadamia project. And as part of the SIP project, the minister is now boasting and talking about all that came from the government I led, from under my watch, through a good minister of energy who was knowledgeable in the sector, and by one of the best finance ministers, as I said, Larry Hawaii. So what can this government boast about? What new exploration, what new drilling? None. There's none. And the failure on your part has been that you failed to, well, you did not keep your promises for reform of the fiscal regime governing the sector. Because companies make investment decisions excuse me, based on economics, based on net present value, NPV, and internal rate of return, IRR. These 3 things. Investment decisions are made taking them into consideration. Economics, net present value, internal rate of return. These international companies don't make decisions based on trips to London and Zurich, and as I said, parts are known. Parts are known. In the last 7 years, the government has promised in almost every budget to do exactly that, reform the fiscal regime to get more investment. So what did the minister finally do in this budget Monday, or what the minister said he would do? Because so many times things are said and they never materialize. I say PNM promises never materialize. The minister said he will make changes now to the investment tax credit. Of course, again, you have to bring legislation. But so many times we have promised legislation in our budget, and years later the legislation is not brought. So as we say, seeing is believing. So the minister says now he made some changes to the oil and gas fiscal regime last Monday. These changes can best be described as tinkering, piecemeal, and ineffective. First change was a change to the investment tax credit for oil and gas companies, increasing it nominally from 25% to 30%. So you have a 5% increase in the investment tax credit. And it's a tax credit, it's not just getting money, it's a tax credit, so it's an incentive. This will have little impact on the attractiveness of this incentive, and will have little impact on getting in more companies to, oil and gas companies to invest. I'll tell you why. I'm not saying this. I'm quoting Ernst & Young. The publication came out after the budget. I don't know if it's the same Young as Minister Young. Is there any relationship? Ernst & Young has noted, and okay, thank you, sir. Very important. Doesn't change. It doesn't change the price of cocoa or the price of oil. They have noted, and I quote, that in order to claim the ITC, the investment tax credit, the development activity undertaken will have to be approved and certified by the minister in the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, the same Minister Young, for the time being. Whilst the enhanced proposal is welcome, this is the same company I'm quoting from, whilst the enhanced proposal is welcome, historically, obtaining such approvals from the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries has proved challenging. This change to investment tax credit will have little or no impact. Minister also made changes to the SPT, the SPT regime, and introduced a new SPT arrangement for new oil wells in shallow marine areas, whether in existing, thank you. What's the stop time, please? Thank you. Talking about the SPT regime, There's a fundamental misunderstanding here in this change that the minister proposes. For new oil wells in shallow marine areas, whether in existing or new fields. For new oil wells, first of all, it's only for new oil wells. So how long does it take to get a new oil well going, to explore, to find, to drill, and so on? But that's not the problem that I see here. SPT is not computed on a well-by-well basis. Did you hear that? Minister wants to give you this SPT for new oil wells. But the SPT is not computed on a well-by-well basis. So how are you going to ever get this SPT you're talking about? SPT is computed on the aggregated production of an oil field that is fiscalized quarterly. In other words, you're not going to get it. Talks about wells, but it doesn't work like that. The SPT is calculated, as I say, on the aggregated production of an oil field. So this provision is almost impossible to administer. Secondly, the minister offers new SPT rates on a sliding scale for shallow marine areas. So, for example, the middle band of US $70 to US $90. In this band, minister proposes an SPT rate of 20%. However, at present, companies producing oil in mature marine areas pay SPT at 33%. But guess what? They get a 20% discount is applied for mature marine fields. So it brings down this SPT to what? 26.4%. 26.4%. So the benefit to companies from this new incentive is only 6.4%, even though the minister is saying that he is going to give an SPT rate of 20%. When prices are in the $70 to $90 range, where they are expected to be most of the time, so it's a 6.4% only. Therefore, this change to SPT regime will have little or no impact. Coming now to changes the minister made to the Petroleum Profits Tax, PPT. With regard to changes in the PPT for deep water, this too is ineffective. This provision will only apply to companies holding exploration and production license. It will have no impact on those holding production sharing contracts. The majority of deep water acreage, I'm told, is under the production sharing regime. So, Minister, is spinning top and mud. The way of production sharing contracts work, the way they work, the Minister of Energy pays the tax liability of the operator out of his share of petroleum profit. So changes in the PPT really have little impact, and therefore this change is moot. The point has been further confirmed by Ernst & Young in the 2022-2023 budget commentary, and I quote, they say, only companies engaged in petroleum operations under an exploration and production license will benefit, as production sharing contracts typically include a tax indemnity, whereby the taxes of the energy company are paid out of the minister's share of production. Therefore, this change to the PPT regime will have little or no impact. Again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Let us see if these incentives will impact in 2 or 3 years. Indeed, what they have done before 2022 to reverse the significant incentives introduced from 2011 to 15, and what they did was introduce a one-size-fits-all royalty in 2017. That has collapsed drilling and production, and the data bears this truth out. Here's the data. In 2015, the country recorded 2,859 rig days. In 2021, there were just 1,161 rig days. That is a massive 59% decline in drilling, which has ramifications for the oil and gas industry and the maritime services sector in Chaguaramas and Libri. That decline in drilling is the main factor behind the fall in natural gas production by 32% in the same period. That fall in natural gas production caused plant closures, as I mentioned, including the closure of Train 1, for which 10% shareholder NGC, remember that? They blew away $250 million on maintenance when the major shareholders BP and Shell opted out of that trade war. So the fall in oil and natural gas production has everything to do with the incentive structure industry, and the minister has failed spectacularly in that regard. Now, 3 days before this budget was to be delivered, BP and NGC announced a new gas supply contract. What an amazing coincidence. On the same day, BP announced it had approved its SIP project. Yet another amazing coincidence. All this seemed strangely choreographed by BP, the NGC, and the government. The question is, did the government push BP to sanction the SIP project? And was a condition for that sanction a new contract with NGC? Is the government so desperate for good news on the energy sector? If so, what concessions were made by the Prime Minister and the Energy Minister when they met with the BP leadership in London? What were the concessions? The opposition has also noted that the recent European tour was conducted in the absence of public servants. The question is, why do you exclude the technocrats and public servants when two politicians go up to meet in a room somewhere in Europe with these companies? Is the government aware that these energy companies are subject to many anti-corruption legislation in the UK and the EU? The same was done in 2017. The Prime Minister and then Minister of something met EOG and BP. It is worrisome that the recent BP-NGC contract is shrouded in mystery. We can understand confidentiality when it comes about price, but the public has not even been told what volume of our gas will be sold to BP, will be sold by BP to NGC. So what is the way forward in the energy sector? Because the Minister admits repeatedly it is the cornerstone of the economy. It has remained the engine of the country and of the economy. And if you're doing nothing else, well, you must have to do something. The Prime Minister recently warned that if no new improvements are had in the investment profile of the oil and gas sector, there will be far-reaching consequences for government, revenues, and the quality of life for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister is seeing these dire consequences manifesting by 2026, but I think they are already manifesting now. How did we come to this point? And why did it take the Prime Minister 7 years to have this Damascus moment? The position of our energy sector is a direct result of their misunderstanding of the same fiscal regime they are now tinkering with after 7 years. There will be some minor improvement in natural gas in 2023, but anything is an improvement after we fall into a deep hole in 21 and 22. The government has also placed a lot of its effort on seeking natural gas from Venezuela, and that has not materialized, and it doesn't seem to be likely to materialize anytime soon. And in this very budget Monday, page 22, it talks about production beginning in 2025. So that's not going to help us 23, 24. Production to begin, and again projected, and as I say, we don't believe anything this government tells us. It is foolhardy to bet your economy on removing sanctions on Venezuela unless there are radical policy interventions to improve the competitiveness of the energy sector, to truly stimulate exploration, as was done in the 2010 to 15 period, when we received record levels of acreage awarded. The downward trajectory of the energy sector will continue apace with very serious consequences for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is a very, very urgent matter that needs to be addressed. And I trust the Minister will be able to answer the quotations I gave about the various changes to the fiscal regime, and tell us how are we going to revitalize and resuscitate the energy sector if you want to keep it as the engine of our economy. As I said, Madam, I will just do a few points on some of the sectors. My colleagues who are very competent and well-researched will follow up on other sectors. The one I would like to turn to now is the health sector, because that is one of the worst that we have. Healthcare in this country now is at its worst. Before I go there, I want to talk a little about the businesses who are owed all these VAT refunds. So, millions. Value-added tax refunds continue to be a bane to businesses. Despite government claims, there are still large sums outstanding, negatively impacting business activity. And we saw recently, following the budget presentation, business leader Arthur Lockjack, chairman of ABL, they have 6 factories in Trinidad and Tobago, is reported to have stated the main thing has been the VAT refunds, because when we go into the export market, we are paying VAT and we need to get those refunds back. Lockjack lamented that this withholding of their VAT refunds was a tremendous blow on their cash. However, the minister failed to deal with the government holding on to people's VAT refunds. When speaking at page 31 of his statement, the minister talked about the size of the fiscal deficit, and he stated, by way of example, we were able to pay out $4 billion in VAT refunds in 2022, significantly more than planned. So business owners could be pardoned if they got the impression the minister would have preferred to keep the money, not pay the VAT refunds at their expense, merely to give the appearance of a smaller fiscal deficit. I have repeatedly warned government against using private sector VAT refunds as an interest-free loan. In our consultations, we met and engaged with several stakeholders from business chambers. One such chamber proposed that as a solution for VAT refunds, the government should allow companies to net off the VAT refunds with taxes to prevent them from encountering cash flow challenges. The minister spoke of the amount of VAT refunds being paid, $4 billion, but that is beside the point. The question is just how much, what is the quantum, how many more millions are owed to businesses? Why does the government refuse to give the people their money, give them back their own money? It's their money. They need their money to recover and to grow. What is required of this government is a consistent, reliable process whereby businesses can receive their VAT refunds on time. This is no science for any willing government. And in fact, for this government, with their agenda, yet unable to ensure refunds are paid on time, is a clear indication of their priorities being misplaced. I want to commit today that the UNC government will immediately ensure the full resourcing of the office responsible for VAT collection and processing to eliminate the long wait for refunds which stifle business confidence and compliance. Further, the UNC government will introduce a system which allows businesses to discount the value of VAT up to the value of outstanding refunds from the government with appropriate approvals. This will rapidly clear up the backlog of outstanding VAT refunds while introducing a more efficient VAT processing system. I turn now to national security because we cannot talk about lives and livelihoods without addressing the fact that crime has totally spiraled out of control in Trinidad and Tobago. We see approximately 3,434 persons have been murdered since the PNM assumed office. To date, the murder toll stands at over 442. Daylight killings and drive-by shootings using high-powered weapons are now the norm. During our consultations at Sama, we heard from Mr. Ramchandra Timo, president of the Arangwes Taxi Drivers Association, about taxi drivers being robbed, one person being murdered in broad daylight. Ms. Noreen John, a small business owner from Port of Spain, told us about how she was robbed, her home invaded, and to this day, justice was not served. In every single one of our consultations, the issue of crime, spiraling crime, was raised numerous times. Prime Minister, something has to happen. Something has to give. But in this budget, there was nothing that gave us hope that you have any plans or programs or policies to deal with the spiraling crime. What I can tell you is that your biggest mistake was when you caused Gary Griffith not to be appointed as Commissioner of Police. That's one of your biggest mistakes. I hold no grief for Captain Gary Griffith, but at least when he was there, your crime numbers were going down. And I worked with him, we worked with him, and under my watch, we brought serious crimes down to the lowest in decades by 2014. We slashed them by 2015 by 50% compared to 2009. By 2015, we saw the lowest number of serious crimes reported in this country since 1984. The current situation is critical. It requires urgent attention by government. We expected, as I say, for the budget to bring some hope for citizens, really suffering with the scourge of crime. Now, this government had promised a border security agency in the Manifesto 2015, and then promised it in several budgets. What did they then do? They watered it down to a security task force. In this budget statement, what did we hear about plans and programs to deal with crime? The minister told us they plan to spend money to facilitate accommodation for 2 Cape-class vessels that they rushed to buy, even though they already had good fleet of vessels, the diamond vessels that we purchased. They rushed to buy these 2 Cape-class vessels. So what are they going to spend money on? How are they going to fight crime? They're going to fix up a place to park up these Cape-class vessels, because that's what the diamond vessels are now. They're parked up there doing nothing. They're not using the vessels, but you run and you bought 2 more vessels. The minister in his presentation spoke of improved technology throughout the National Security Service. In his budget presentation, I note with concern that in the wake of several high-profile cyber attacks on public and private institutions and reports of sophisticated crimes such as card skimming, the cyber security program under the ministry has been allocated only $150,000 for fiscal 23. One would expect that this program, which was introduced in fiscal 2015 by my administration, would play a role in combating the emerging threat. What has happened, I think, that is contributing to not being able to deal with escalating crime is that we had conceptualized the National Operations Center to be a high-tech entity aimed at accelerating the state's response to critical events, and at the same time feeding real-time intelligence to all agencies. But when this government came into power, they lumped the NOC together with the SSA, and they've been granted expanded span powers, and that's what they're doing. I am told today by a gentleman that they have evidence. They have evidence on paper documents that their phone is being intercepted, they're being spied upon, and he's planning going to the High Court in order to expose what is taking place by the SSA and with agents in the TTPS. So we gave it to the SSA and nothing has happened. They promised Howard a National Forensic Sciences Center. Repeat promise. 2020 we were told there was an agreement signed between TT and China for the center. 2 years later, we are told on Monday, Cabinet is now approving lands and conceptual drawings. So we are nowhere nearer to this Forensic Science Center. 4 years since this was announced and nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So no new measures, CCTV camera again. You collapse the whole city. When you came in, we had put in about 500 CCTV cameras. They all became, most of them are non-functional under your watch. So Minister, there is no hope in your budget for people to take comfort that you are in fact dealing with crime. Another failed sector is that of the health sector. Under your government, citizens have experienced the worst healthcare in our country's history. Your pervasive criminal negligence has resulted in the deaths of thousands of persons. Yes, ma'am.
I'll ask you if you withdraw that word and find another way.
Which word, madam, please?
You said you're pervasive and you said some words after that, please.
The government's pervasive negligence has resulted in the deaths of thousands of persons, not only from COVID, but also uncared for patients with chronic NCDs, such as diabetes, hypertension, and cancer. Over 4,200 unfortunate citizens became casualties of the woeful, incompetent mismanagement of the pandemic. In your budget statements, every one of the last 7 years, you promised scientific networking through a network of modern facilities. And again, up to today, you promised the central block at Port of Spain General Hospital. That is still not constructed after 7 years of your government. You boast about other hospitals we gave you, my government. We gave you the commencement of the Point Fortin and the Arima hospitals. We gave the people of Trinidad and Tobago the Cuba Teaching Hospital, the San Fernando Teaching Hospitals. When you came into office, you rolled back the closing time for most health centers. We had increased those to 9 p.m. in order to give working people the opportunity to come there after work for health care. You rolled that back down to 4 p.m. So all people who are working, you can't get to the health center because you work until 4 p.m. We had initiated that, and so you're depriving working people the opportunity to have primary care in the health sector, in these health centers. There's a worsening CDAP program, unavailability of life-saving medicine and anti-cancer drugs, and insufficient medical and surgical supplies. Patients are dying in your so-called parallel health system while they await urgent major surgery, including cardiac surgery. Some persons have suggested it should be renamed not a parallel health system, but a death system. Patients are dying in the overcrowded emergency departments, unable to have a ward bed, even after waiting 48 hours lying in a trolley or sitting on a wheelchair. They're uncontrolled and worsening NCDs. Sometimes there was only one CT scanner functioning for the entire country. You have repeatedly promised to establish and implement a national health insurance since 2015 in your manifesto and then in your various budgets. 7 years later, that remains a promise which never materialized. PNM promise never materialized. Presently, there's a worsening in CDAP.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
Every Friday, it's all about Fire Mood Soca Fridays with MC Duke and Selector Kochi from 6 straight to 9 p.m. blazing all the latest and past soca hits. So remember, make it a line, make it a day, rock and come in, you know. It's all about Fire Mood Soca Fridays on the street 919 FM. You don't know.
Shalom. The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under commanding General Yohana will be on the street 91.9 FM every Monday from 7:05 p.m. to 8 p.m. bringing you the truth according to the Bible. The ISUPK is a non-profit faith-based community organization that will respond to the plagues that's affecting blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indian. We also have programs such as education, both adult and youth, food distribution, rehabilitation, both drug and alcohol, mentoring, counseling, and spiritual support. Remember, tune in every Monday on 91.9 FM, 7:05 p.m. Shalom.
Ever wanted to do your banking without going to the bank? Well, First Citizens makes it easy. Getting salary alerts with mobile alerts is as easy as reading a text. Paying bills with telebanking is as easy as making a phone call. Transferring funds with the mobile app is as easy as posting a selfie. And paying credit cards via online banking is as easy as streaming a movie.
First Citizens Easy Banking makes your everyday banking so much easier. Visit firstcitizensgroup.com for more information. First Citizens, we put you first.
91.9 is counting down 91 days of Christmas. Yes, 91 days of Christmas. It's karaoke, prizes to be won, giveaways, and lots more. It's the 91 days of Christmas on the street. 919 FM.
I could sing a good serenade. Oh, it's Christmas.
Hi, Trinidad and Tobago. This is yours truly, Pastor Charles, streaming live from Port of Spain, Trinidad, Marvel Road, 91.9. Our services start from, 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning from the first, the second, and last Wednesday of the month. We are going to have a T-R-M-E time in the presence of God. We will be praying, praise God, for our nation. We'll be praying for families. We'll be praying for those that are sick and those that are in need. Tune in to the best station, 91.9 FM Street Live, Port of Spain, Maribel.
If you're experiencing pain, constipation, headaches, poor blood circulation, high or low blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, swollen or darkened feet, come visit us at Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. We at Health and Wealth Lifestyle offer a wide range of services. Come and experience our new 3D analyzer, which allows you to have a look inside your body. We also provide live blood analysis, iridology, ionic foot detox with foot soak and foot massage, aquatherapy, full body massage, and organic supplements on sale such as Nano Silver, Nano Zinc, Body Light, cold pressed sesame oil, and more. Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at number 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. For more information, call 275-8359 or 288-1108.
Join Nicole Huggins for Health and Wealth Lifestyle Tuesday morning from 11:05 to 12 noon. Right here on the street, 919 FM.
Good about I'm looking like it real bad.
Are you ready for that boat experience again? The Sea Champion and the Embassy say book with us for that unforgettable boat ride experience. Sea Champion leaving from King's Wharf, San Fernando, and the Embassy leaving from Breakfast Shed, Port of Spain, or Westside Trinidad. For more information, call 399-5959, 281-4723, or email us at coralvisiontT@gmail.com. Book now and reserve your cruise.
Hey, that boat, I look like it's not well. Going out and bad in the people better we cause trouble.
This is Bishop Aaron Williams from the Divine Problem Solving International Ministries, inviting you to be part of our broadcast on any given Thursday night from 12 midnight right on to 5 a.m. on Friday morning. And this broadcast is called Early Morning Gospel Market Program. Then we have on Tuesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. the Holy Ghost Gospel Pharmacy. If you are sick and ailing, you can get from this particular pharmacy, from the pharmacist, the good things of life. Hallelujah. And any Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, break into the host of the Philistines. Hallelujah. If you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, hearing the babel of false doctrines that you encounter daily, it's about time you get close to God, God's word, direct from his throne room, in the name of Jesus.
God has good plans for his people. Why do you worry so much?
Turn your lights down low and listen to the Master's radio. Get in touch with God. Turn your radio on.
You are invited to join Pastors Morris and Agnes Johnson of the Church of the Firstborn Assembly Miracle Center, located at number 399 Eastern Main Road, Guayco in Sangre Grande, for the old-time gospel hour family radio ministry every Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. to the Children's Hour worship ministry of the Word and the Family Forum every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Law and You, and every Friday evening from 9 p.m. to
to 5 a.m. All night prayer live, designed with you in mind. This program deals with today's issues from a biblical perspective. You will also be given the opportunity to call in and interact with us. Micah 6:8 says, He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doeth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly and to love mercy and walk humbly with thy God. Your financial support through the First Citizens Bank will be greatly appreciated. Account number 795222. For further information, call 753-1113 or email us at church668hope@gmail.com.
Are you ready for that boat experience again? The Sea Champion and the Embassy say, book with us for that unforgettable boat ride experience. Sea Champion leaving from King's Wharf, San Fernando, and the Embassy leaving from Breakfast Shed, Port of Spain, or Westside Trinidad. For more information, call 399-5959, 281-4723, or email us at coralvisiontT@gmail.com. Book now and reserve your cruise.
Hey, that boat, I look like it does well.
91.9 Bago Bashment presents on board the Embassy Tobago Carnival Boat Ride Week.
Tobago Carnival Boat Ride Weekend.
Boarding at the Pigeon Point Jetty. Kicking things off from the 24th to the 30th of October. Walk with your food and coolers. Come experience October 24th. Pan on the boat. October 25th. ISO on the boat. October 26th. Chutney on the boat. Tickets are $200. Available at islandetickets.com or 91.9 FM Tobago. The party continues October 27th. Water on the boat. October 28th. Power Soca. October 29th. Groovy on the boat.
October 30th.
Juve on the boat. Tickets are $200. Available at islandetickets.com or 91.9 FM Tobago. For tickets, call 814723-363-4030 or 368-1932 or check us out on Facebook at Embassy Cruises for bookings or email at embassycruises@gmail.com. Tobago Carnival Ride Weekend.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Dan promised it to Port since the first budget. I think he may have lost that copy because clearly he forgot this has been promised again and again. Again in 16 and 17, Minister promises same Moruga Port, promising again this year. The point is your promises for infrastructure are hollow at best. Promise to talk about again, nothing has happened to date. And so you will not deliver anything, because that is just the nature of P&M promises never materialize. Another promise for the completion of the Solomon-Hocher Highway. I want to remind you, madam, that it took the UNC government to start the extension after decades of being promised this extension of this highway. As soon as the government came into office, they stopped the project, redid the scope of works, gave the contractor to whichever friend, financier, or family. And what happened? The road crumbled down the creek. One set of cricks. It crumbled like cricks. We yet have to find out how much that cost us, how much more it would cost us to fix it. So it's crumbling infrastructure everywhere. This extension of that highway was poised to go to two P&M strongholds, Point Fortin and La Brea, but they stopped it. They halted the work. Now we get to this new state company. This new company will fix all the potholes and repair all the roads. Well, we wait to see that. In terms of real issues affecting daily commuters, nothing for them. $200 million to set up a new state company for P&M and your friends and family and finances or board members. On any given day, hundreds of thousands of citizens travel on the northbound lane of the Iwer Butler Highway, Sir Solomon Hocher Highway, and at the same time the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. Almost 6 hours a day, citizens have to spend sitting down in traffic. How productive do you expect these people to be after they reach to work? They're miserable. They hate everything after suffering in that traffic. So why wasn't there any allocation made in this budget to address that problem? Is the only solution what the Prime Minister said? The Prime Minister talked about work from home and then changed his whole mind about it. He talked about some time ago. Now he's talking about saying, save fuel by not getting caught in traffic and choose a different time to avoid traffic. So how can you do that? How can you do that when you force people back to work into the same routine after you promised a work from home policy and then said, no, cannot happen. In your 2020 manifesto, you promised a work from home policy. P&M promises never materialize. The majority of funding allocated in this budget for the Ministry of Works is for existing incomplete projects, no new initiatives. That's the same old broken promises again and again. So when you hear the allocation and you watch it in the estimates, it sounds like so much, but it's the same promise, repeated promise from year to year. I turned for a short while to housing, and I read an Express editorial recently about the chambers, the HECs, and the fact that there are over 119,000 applying for houses from the government and so on. And I see the government cause a further hurt to the poor and vulnerable by slashing home improvement grants. Fiscal 13 and 14, we disbursed over 1,200 home improvement grants to families through the Ministry of Housing. For fiscal 21, we did that each year, of course, from 2015. For fiscal 21, a meager 389 grants, so they've slashed that too. In 22, 368 grants under this government. There are over 191,000 persons applying for housing. So we'll wait to see what happens under this government. The number of housing, our shadow portfolio member, MP for Opuch West will deal with some more on housing. Education, a very important sector. The true wealth of our nation is not in oil and gas, it is in people. And so the issue of sending our children to school was another key takeaway from our consultations. We heard Ms. Gillian Ramsaran from Pashi speak about how the struggle to send children to school is now overbearing. Maria Pear from Tabaki told us how expensive it is now to pay for transport to send children to school, $50 per day. In Bish, Whitney Pacheco questioned if the ICT access centers will be reopened because children do not have access to the technology. That is what our government aimed to do, give our children access to the world at their fingertips with our laptop program. Now that the visionless P&M has dismantled the laptop program, they cannot even ensure properly functioning ICT centers. Prime Minister, I say again, something has to happen. Poor people have feelings too. The SEA and CSEC level results show students could not cope with the changes of the pandemic. This could have been caught and rectified before the exams if the government had used a data-driven policy approach. That is, if government had been proactive, ensuring our students were prepared during both the online and hybrid systems. About physical opening, information coming to me from sources at the Ministry of Education says the ministry has 350 tickets earmarked for school repairs. However, only 84 have been executed by the start of the school term. That is simply appalling. Is the government allowing our nation's schools to fall into disrepair, like they have destroyed our road network and other infrastructure? How can our children learn in a classroom that is falling apart? And let me remind you, during our watch we built over 100 schools. Can this government point to schools that they built in 7 years? I believe it's 7 schools in 7 years. That's what I'm told, but then they boast they've built schools, secondary, ECCE. My information is we've built only about 7 schools. 7 schools. What else have you done? The high cost of getting back to school, the absence of a proper school transfer system regime, the fact that so many have been unemployed, the rising cost of living have led to some children dropping out of the school system because parents could not afford to send them to school. And what will happen to these children who drop out? Some may be permanently unemployable, others may turn to crime, others may become homeless. So we are creating, in effect, a lost generation. I make a commitment again, when we form the next government, we promise we will make educating the children of our nation a #1 priority again. I turn now briefly to the labor sector. In the labor sector, we know job security is a myth under this government. They boast they kept so many persons in jobs, and yet so many persons lost their jobs. After 7 years in charge, they cannot point to a single project, a single policy, a single development which has created jobs for the people of the nation. Not one single project or policy. In this year's budget, the minister told the public servants, I quote, "We are of the view that our current offer of 4% over the period 2014-2019 for mainstream public service is prudent, practical, and judicious. This is with food prices rising, inflation, fuel prices, property tax, a meager 4%, an insult to the hard-working public service who have kept our nation going. It should now be evident to the working class and trade unions that the policies of this rurally led government are to undermine, weaken, and completely dismantle the trade union movement. The employment of strategies, devices, and mechanisms, inclusive of closures of state-owned enterprises, Petrotrin, privatization, for example, TTRA, and the rampant proliferation of contract labor in the public sector at the expense of permanent and long-term employment are being all utilized. Their utter failure to settle over 9 years of outstanding wage and salary negotiations in the public sector, with every public sector and public service trade union and association, they failed to do that, all except for one. What they did instead, they offered $100,000 workers, 100,000 workers, a trail of breadcrumbs falling from the master's table, and the unions have so far rightfully rejected. I am very proud to say and remind you that the government I led in a 5-year period settled over 135 wage negotiations. In the labor sector, I speak of the betrayal of a decision given to the nation by the minister in his budget statement of 2022, when he said he will regularize the employment status of over 3,400 nursing personnel who would have been given temporary continuous employment, where these workers secure neither gratuity nor pensions. And I know both the member for Naparima and the member for Kuva South have raised this issue repeatedly in Parliament about the status of regularizing these nursing personnel. The government was supposed to settle the matter. Questions were asked of the Minister and of the Prime Minister, and they said it is being worked out. By December 21, it was supposed to be done, but they have failed sorted out, getting betrayal of these workers. What did they do instead? They have filed an appeal against a judgment handed down by the Industrial Court that was supposed to dispose of this matter. On September 12th of this year, they filed that appeal, betraying the promise to the nursing personnel of the nation. Thank you. Now, over 30,000 daily rated workers are still waiting to establish their contributory pension plan that the government promised to take effect in 2020. Now the minister tells us, so that's 2020, where are we now, 2022, 23? The minister tells us now a consultant is reviewing these plans for the following year. Yet again, a betrayal of the workers. Tens of thousands of public officers were sold a dream that this promising government would review public service pensions to index to their entitlements. That was expected to be completed by 2020. Almost 2 years have elapsed, and public officers are still awaiting indexing, their pensions. They're still awaiting indexing of the pension. Another broken promise by PNM, promises never materialized. Madam Speaker, I turn now again to workers. The CPEP program. In 2015, when my government demitted office, there were a total of 11,069 persons employed under the CPEP program. In 2021, under this government, that has dropped down to 9,108 persons. 1,000. Dropped down by 9,108 persons. So you've reduced the number of workers, again creating more unemployment, more joblessness. For fiscal 23, there has been no expansion in the program. This is seen in the expended estimates. The program was revised downwards from 425 million in 22 to 410 million in 23, meaning more of these workers will have to go on the broadline. We look at the ERP, another form of employment, labor. We have cut expenditure by $0.5 billion, 2016 to 2021. For the past 7 years, this government, through its minister, has come to Parliament to appropriate billions of dollars of public monies. They have consistently refused to account for how they were spending the people's monies. And so this new year, we expect the same. We await the debate and the start of the debate. From evading opposition queries on expenditure, to non-disclosure contract agreements, to exemption of state agencies from public scrutiny, the government remains unwilling to account to the nation transparently. A few words on agriculture, because this is a very, very important sector to drive the economy for revenue streams, of course, and to help us with food security. I've spoken before about the decline in the agriculture sector under this government. I have noted that the studies show growing food insecurity in the region due to a lack of production and high food prices. When people say they are not making a living anymore, believe them. When many go to supermarkets, they are forced to compromise and take only the bare minimum to get by. In some cases, because, as I said before, the exorbitant food prices. At our UNC pre-budget consultations in Princestown, Mr. Mahadev Ramnarayan of NAVET, of the Dashin Farmers Association, lamented how difficult it is for farmers who sometimes do not have proper agricultural access roads, no retention ponds, no sluice gates available. He spoke about the lack of technical services from the ministry's extension department for pest control, amongst other things. How can we reduce our food import bill if we continue to dismiss the plight of our farmers? Mr. Javed Rahman of the Gillingham Junction Farmers Association told us about the issues of flooding, predial larceny, poor infrastructure. Mr. Imtiaz Khan of the Kali Bay Fishing Association spoke of the neglect of the fishing facilities and community. He explained that the fishermen used to have VAT returns on engines and vehicles, gas subsidy, and an enforcement committee visiting the sites and caretakers. He says all these things have now been discontinued. Government has treated this sector with more contempt than any other government in history. Yet what did they do? They want to puppy show themselves with fancy expos and photo ops. You remember that? Big, what was it, Agri-Expo. And the farmers down on the ground were not even invited. I wonder how many people sitting down in that place were indeed farmers in that expo. Government held the Agri-Investment Forum in Port of Spain. A month later, the HDC is talking about pushing ahead with turning the St. Augustine nurseries into housing development, destroying the agricultural aspects there. Prime agricultural land, with a history of supporting farmers for decades.
Please, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Okay, again, I'll give you a little leeway, but this is sub judice, so please be careful.
I'm not sure which one. Oh, the nurseries. Okay, yes. Thank you. I don't see what I would say would influence any judge, but I'll be guided. I can't influence any judge. I'm sure maybe some of the other.
Let's get on with it.
Oh, okay, ma'am. I'm guided. So we have seen the government has a history of supporting, no history of supporting farmers, and now we see what is happening there at those nurseries. Nothing in the budget, definitely, madam, I've seen, for the scourge of predial larceny. Very small budget allocations for flooding, which destroys so many crops and drive up the cost of local foods. Again, the allocated 300 million that will never be used to benefit farmers. This might be used to buy hampers again. We saw what happened with those hampers and the vegetable boxes. The UNC's plan, madam, I want to share a bit of this before I close, to ensure food security. Now remember when I spoke about agriculture before and the fact that we have to delve into agriculture, partly as a revenue earner, but also for food security. The Prime Minister said there was no land. We don't have land. And Prime Minister doesn't understand, given all the vertical ways of farming now that can be done, so many ways, not everything is on flat tongue. He has no idea, absolutely no idea as his government, of how you can do agriculture with very little land. But it's not true to say we don't have land for agriculture. We do have farmers who are farming and need to be supported. So I say our plan to deal with food security, our national economic transformation plan, we place agriculture as a central pillar of our diversification strategy. This would lead to massive job creation and help us reestablish food security. We propose initiatives such as creating agricultural parks with all necessary infrastructure and focusing on local crops, organic superfoods, and non-traditional export crops. Indeed, our plan includes implementing an agriculture insurance protection system to protect farmers from losses incurred through flooding, drought, pests and disease, and predial larceny, fire, and business interruption. We propose investing in R&D, research and development, and encouraging innovation in agricultural practices, processes, technology, and commercialization of new products. We propose working with farmers in the private sector, investors to capitalize on global demand for non-traditional food crops, which offer lucrative opportunities such as hot peppers. And I think last time I spoke, I talked about the fact that we have the scorpion pepper is one of the hottest in the world. I spoke about the fact that peppers, any peppers that you can grow can be easily exported. So that's why I talk about this could be a revenue earner, a forex earner, job creation, as well as help us with food security. We propose inviting private investors to establish an agro-processing complex to process the supply from agricultural parks. This will be created through the lease of about 25,000 acres of former carry lands to registered farmers and private investors. There must be a focus on policies that will spur economic growth. Our nation desperately needs innovative solutions in this crisis. I must say a word about Tobago, madam. I would like to, not I must, I would like to. The minister acknowledged that the change in admin in Tobago was a good thing for the development of the island, where he stated, and I quote, "Madam Speaker, I am in broad agreement with the socio-economic agenda advanced by the new administration by the THE in its June 2022 budget statement for fiscal 2023. The Minister continued, "The policies, programs, and activities that have been announced, if implemented properly, will improve the economic well-being and quality of life of the people of Tobago. We anticipate the creation of more jobs in the private sector, as well as the maintenance or preservation of existing businesses and the generation of new ones." End of quote. Madam Speaker, it seems to me that even the PNM seems to be happy that the PNM lost the elections in Tobago. The Minister acknowledged the lockdown measures and closure of the economy would have devastated the tourism industry on the island, and there would be the need to kickstart. Tobagonians are not coming to Trinidad to go to Maracas Beach and rest and relax. They're coming here because there are services and goods which are not provided in Tobago. Notwithstanding the THA's best efforts, they are not in control of the air bridge and the sea bridge. These are controlled by central government. And we have to wonder that this price increase now, whether they're trying to punish Tobago because of their loss in the elections. There have been recent complaints about the number of flights on the air bridge. Citizens have been clamoring for government to increase flights to ensure those who wish to travel to Tobago will have access to the opportunity. The solution this government presented, as I said, was to raise the price, to reduce the demand, without resourcing Caribbean Airlines to be able to increase flights to Tobago. The increase in fares goes against the tourism agenda in Tobago, because a large segment of travelers to Tobago are domestic tourists from Trinidad. Maybe this difficulty to travel between the islands is what the Prime Minister meant when in the heat of the election he stated that he will never forgive Tobago if they do not vote PNM. They will never forget Tobago if they do not vote, never forgive if they vote PNM. The increased fares will not encourage persons in Trinidad to staycation in Tobago. Finally, Madam, the UNC's plan to rebuild and restore Trinidad and Tobago. There is no question, in spite of the Minister's false narrative, that we are doing reasonably well. The reality is our country's future is in peril under this government. Our economy is tanking, and the government is oblivious to what needs to be done. The Prime Minister's called on citizens to stay the course, but of course that course we're headed on is for disaster. The UNC is ready, willing, and able to steer our country into calm waters. Our track record speaks for itself. Under the government island, the economy was on a stable growth path. We had initiatives in train to increase revenue generation, and as I said, we created jobs, over 56,000 jobs. We have completed a comprehensive plan to help rebuild the economy and restore stability. The first recommendation we have is, one, reduce tax burden. Reduce the tax burden. We believe reducing the heavy tax burden on our citizens and businesses most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic will help citizens start to regain their footing. I mentioned before about the VAT regime and the fact that we will again remove basic food items from the VAT net and improve the efficiency of the tax system by strengthening the BIR, the VAT office, and customs and excise. We will also simplify the personal corporate income tax regime as well as the VAT regime. Our second booster to the economy, to help the economy to recover, is to jumpstart food security, and I just mentioned some of those initiatives. We believe there must be a jumpstart to our agriculture sector, and I gave some of the plans there. And we commit that we should spend at least 10% of the PSIP to develop the agricultural access roads, irrigation and drainage for agricultural parks. We will also incentivize the private sector to establish an agro-processing plant. There will be no wastage or dumping of produce, which is a bane for many of our farmers. The third strategy we're proposing is to restart petroleum to regain fuel security. We believe government must re-examine its plan for petroleum. We are proposing to restart our refinery. By reopening Petrotrin, we will have greater fuel security, we will save foreign exchange, we will provide meaningful jobs, and of course we will gain foreign exchange revenue and to continue to contribute to the Treasury. Our fourth proposal is for government to invest in renewable energy. Now the government speaks of it, but it's just lip service and just it never happens. Our initiatives in renewable energy and recycling, such as the establishment of a solar energy park at Tamana, an industrial recycling park across the East-West corridor to reduce our carbon footprint while adding to environmental resiliency. Our fifth economic booster for the economy and its recovery is the creation of 3 innovative funds to mobilize financial resources. We believe the government should now adopt the approach and start the National Food Security Fund, a National Infrastructure Fund, and a National Climate Trust Funds. These funds will not raise our public debt. We recognize that the citizens of TNT are critical to achieving our goal of recovery, sustainable growth, and diversification. Our plan is built on 3 interconnected principles. Principle 1, people-centered development, getting people back to work. Most important, getting people back to work. Principle 2, pro-business, allow the private sector to grow, drive growth and development. Principle 3 is resilience, deepen economic reforms, but with a human face. Principle 4, local content, give people a sense of ownership and independence. Principle 5, sustainability, promoting environmental stewardship. And so the UNC's National Economic Transformation Plan lays out a comprehensive suite of policy initiatives and programs to steer our economy towards a more sustainable development path. Our plan again is to create more jobs, to focus heavily on diversification and new business development so that people across the country will benefit. The plan has diversification and prosperity engines. With the economy in sharp decline, we must focus on new revenue generation schemes, deals and programs. We cannot continue to put all the eggs in the energy basket given the volatility of this sector. We have identified several prosperity engines to create new jobs, transform the economy, and create more revenue. 1, a Brechin Castle agro-processing complex. 2, a sugar manufacturing facility. 3, an East-West biotechnology manufacturing corridor. 4, Sevilla Digital Innovation Park. 5, Tamana Solar Tech Renewable Energy. West Port of Spain Trini Creative Arts Street Area. East Port of Spain Steel Pan Manufacturing Facility. 8, Piarco Aircraft Maintenance Repair and Operations Hub. 9, Cedrus Moruga Southwest Peninsula Economic Zone. 10, Point Galeota Energy Logistics Hub. 11, Plymouth International Cruise Ship Complex. 12, make Tobago a duty-free zone. and the Port of Spain port revitalization. These prosperity engines will mobilize and engage the private sector, both local and international, and their implementation will have large positive multiplier effects in kickstarting the economy. Kickstarting economic recovery, fostering growth, and supporting transformation. What is needed is a government and a leader who will put their shoulders to the wheel, a government that will see private sector and stakeholders as partners in the process of development. We recently marked our nation's 60th anniversary of independence, our 46th anniversary of a republic. We made significant progress on our journey, but successive PNM administrations have stymied further development. This latest PNM administration has been the worst in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot go on this way. Our country and people deserve better. We deserve a government that cares about citizens, that will take decisive action to improve circumstances. I repeat that the UNC is ready to get to work to rebuild and restore our nation. Some of these programs I've mentioned for economic transformation and recovery and rebuilding, I have mentioned before, and I still believe that they are very viable and workable and definitely in need. For the past 7 years, the government has branded anyone who dared to speak truth as treasonous. Well, the entire nation can see this proposed budget by the government is nothing short of a betrayal of the people of our country. The budget will do nothing but work against the people of our nation, condemning them to hopelessness, to a cycle of poverty, to joblessness, some to criminality, violence, and despair. Budget 2023 has fully exposed the government for what they are, a government of incompetent and unqualified persons who have no desire to work to improve the lives of the people of our nation. A failed budget, a failed government will produce failed budgets. Failed budgets will produce failed nations. The entire nation now knows that as long as this government sits in office, the greater the danger to economic stability, peace, and prosperity. To citizens of this great land, the salt of the earth, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, I say take heart and have faith, for as sure as the day follows the darkest night, the sun shall and must always rise again. I know we are experiencing very difficult times, and as a result of this failed budget, it is going to get even worse. But we must remember that the people united can overcome any adversity. In times of crisis, I often think back to the comforting words of my mother, who would always remind me that everything in life is temporary, even troubles, and that too shall pass. So please have faith. This too shall pass. Soon these 7 years will be nothing more than a bad memory. We will overcome the crisis if we believe in the potential within ourselves. I will never give up on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and I ask you, please do not give up on our nation. It was a great freedom fighter, Mahatma Gandhi, who said, and I repeat, when I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Excuse me. Trinidad and Tobago, I say to you today, this government is now tipping over on itself. Prime Minister, I ask, why do you continue your government to brutalize the poor? Poor people have feelings too. I again call upon you, withdraw this wicked budget and call the election now. I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. West.
If you're just joining us, that was
Okay, so that was the opposition leader. That was the opposition leader giving her budget response, and it was finished at about 1:42. Very interesting. But are you all aware that there was a protest in Port of Spain today? Number one. Number two, it was a heated protest because our girl Juliet Davy went down in the people and protest and make a drama. So when I saw it, I said, hey, Juliet and the people and them protest. So join me on the live, all right? Join me on the live. I really not going to deal with it is Friday, and I want to cool my head a little bit. I want to cool my brain a little bit. So how I intend to cool my brain, join me on Street 919. Let's see what happened. Let's all see what happened today as Miss Juliet Davy interrupt the people and them protests.
Eyes on the prize. Focus. Keep your eyes on the prize.
So you have to join me on the live now because remember I finishing at 2. So it's already minutes to 2, as they would say in Trinidad parlance. So you need to come on the live to see how Juliet Davy turn up the people and them protest today. So you have to come on the live to see Juliet and the people and them protests, right? It's not even 1,000 people in the protests, but Juliet and the people and them protests. Listen, Juliet.
Give me the right to have. I challenge the media. I challenge the media. Just as how during negotiations you publish workers' salary. Publish this document. I challenge the media to publish this document. Make this a headline. Let the people see what these sucking the blood of all of us and coming to tell all of us that we must sacrifice.
And when you get in, what you get in, tell me what you driving. Tell me what you driving and what you get in. We want to hear how much money you working for. I want to hear how much money you working for.
So you have to come on the live. If you want to hear and see, join me on the live. Join me on the live now. I'm not showing no more.
Eyes on the prize. Focus. Keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused. Eyes on the prize. Focus. Keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused. Eyes on the prize. Focus. Keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused. Goals. We setting them goals. Pretending that it is New Year's Eve. Trending with pen and paper. Dreams, desires, and promises. We lining them in an order. Not going by what we see. We aiming for something higher. Let's go. Keep your eyes on the target line. Bring your gauge and projectile. Stack your feet on the X line. Ready? Aim, fire. Focus. The eyes on the prize. Focus. The eyes on the prize. Focus. The eyes on the prize. Focus.
So you had to cover the live to see the signal. I see somebody say every time I say come on the live, they just come off the live. That is okay. That's all right. I know why I say it come on the live, because I want people not just hear what I'm saying or hear what I'm showing. I want you to come on the live to see what I'm showing you. So nobody can tell you you're here, but you can tell people I saw it for myself. That number's looking good on Facebook. I'm gonna see the numbers on YouTube. All right, so let me show you all this video. Juliet went up in the people and them protests and questioning the man, you know, telling the man how much you working for. You want to tell me how much them working for? How much you working for? Let me hear it. Let me see it.
I challenge the media. Just as hard. During negotiations, you publish workers' salary. Publish this document. I challenge the media to publish this document. Make this a headline. Let the people see. Sucking the blood of all of us and coming to tell all of us that we must sacrifice.
And when you get in, what you get in, tell me what you driving. Tell me what you driving and what you get in. We want to hear how much money you working for. I want to hear how much money you working for. And I want to know what you driving. I want to know. I want to know how much money you're working for and where you're driving. That's what I want to know. Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to tell you, the rolling might be blacker than you, but rolling not for you.
We want to know what you driving and how much money you working for. We want to know what you driving and what you working for. Don't tell me what the minister's getting. Tell me what you working for and what you driving. Tell me that. All of us have a right here, citizens. All you can't tell me I come here. All of us have a right here, citizens. Tell us what you're driving. Tell us what you driving and how much money you working for, Uncle Roger. All of us be as honest to the people. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. I want to know what Uncle Roger working for. I want to know Uncle Roger driving. I want to know that. Let us set the
So Juliet calling the people at the protests and turn up the whole protest. Only we see. Come and see. All the media turn away from Ansel Rocher. Look at how this thing happening. All the media houses now turn their attention away from Ansel Rocher and now turn their attention to Juliet Davy, who is asking Ansel Rocher, tell the people how much you working for and tell the people what you driving. Well, yes.
There is a bunch of jokers. Ansel Roger and telling people what the government driving. He won't tell me what he's driving. Let them tell us what he's driving and how much money he's working for. There is a bunch of jokers. A bunch of jokers. Ansel Roger, tell us how much money you working for. And tell us what kind of vehicle you driving. And tell me what talk. Tell me what talk. Always a bunch of jokers.
Well.
I don't touch me because I have a right to be here just like all of you. Well, there's a bunch of jokers. I say so.
All the media turn all the attention away from Ansel Rocher. Nobody is studying Ansel Rocher again. Everybody studying Juliet Davy. Come and turn up the people them thing.
What a Christmas! Big bottle, small bottle. Dance, oh, dance. Drink water and dance. Dance.
Christmas season, ready to go shopping. Waiting for me waterman to put the money in my hand. I say Christmas season, the children them waiting for the water king to buy the toys and things.
Honey, if I don't have none, I will find it. If I can't find none, I will borrow it. And if I didn't get none, don't study it. Most important, we live it. We will still have fun. We will still tolerant. Sorrel and gingerbread. We will have something to share. If they don't have much
So I'm making my way out of the studios of the Street 919 FM. See you all on Monday, please God. Take it easy, Juliet. Take it easy, Juliet Davy. So that's what we're talking about. You see what going on? All the drama that happened in town. This, make sure and tune into your news today. News later. Juliet Davy mash up the people on their march.
What a Christmas! Big bottle, small bottle. Dance, oh oh, dance. Drink water and dance. Hey, hey, dance.
Christmas season, ready to go shopping. Waiting for me waterman to put the money in my hand. I say Christmas season, the children them waiting for the water king to buy the toys and things.
Honey, if I do have none, I will find it. If I can't find none, I will borrow it. And if I didn't get none, don't study it. Most important, we live it. We will still have fun. We will still around. Sorrel and gingerbread. We will have something to share. If they don't have much to eat, we still will celebrate. It's Jesus' birthday. I say. What a sharing. Big bottle, small bottle. Water. Dance, oh oh, dance. Drink water and dance. Hey, hey, dance.
Christmas season, that's just an waiting on the water, Lord, for the money to buy drugs. Christmas season, I want to fix my house and things. Waiting on the water state, for the money to buy pigs.
Woman, if I don't have none, I will find it. If I can't find none, I will hustle it. And if I didn't get none, don't study it, my girl. Most important, we live it. We will still have fun. We will still around. In the east and in the west. In the north and in the south. If they don't have much to give, we still privilege. It's Jesus' birthday. I say, Baila, what a Christmas. What a sharing, big bottle, small bottle. Dance, go, go, dance. Drink water and dance. Hey, hey, dance. Dance, go, go, dance. Drink water and dance.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the Street 919 FM.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
91.9 is counting down 91 days of Christmas. Yes, 91 days of Christmas. It's karaoke, prizes to be won, giveaways. It's the 91 days of Christmas on the Street 919 FM.
I could sing a good serenade. Oh, it's Christmas.
It's the launch of Legacy's 2023 presentation, A TikTok Affair. On Saturday, October 1st at Ibiza Lounge. Come TikTok yourself with Youngster, Mystical, Caution Sound, DJ Tari and Parky, Music Jazz, Nigel Snipes, and much more. Win an all-inclusive Legacy Carnival package and other door prizes. Tickets at Legacy Mascot.